Hello there, and welcome back to Little Bear Games. I'm Josh.
I'm Andy.
And today we're going to be doing episode 2 of our Game versus Game series. We're very excited to bring this to you as we're going to be exploring the exciting and remarkably dense world of tile placement games. We'll be looking at 2 heavyweights of the genre, Ryan Knizia's Samurai and the classic Carcassonne. So we're basically going to talk about both games, say what we thought of them, and then give you our assessment at the end of the episode on which we feel was better. Which game should we start with, Andy?
Oh, good question. Should we start with Carcassonne?
Okay, we'll start with Carcassonne.
No preference, just I guess it was the most recent one we played, so.
Super. So, Andy, you're more of the experienced Carcassonne player than I am.
You say that as you beat me, but...
Yeah, but that since we started doing this podcast, I
lose all
to
my.
you.
I know I lose all my games. I put myself in a curse by talking about it so much and saying I'm dreadful. Carcassonne, tile placement game. Carcassonne, named after the French town, city.
City. I want to say.
Somebody please correct us. Aren't you an ancient? No, let's not go there.
Medieval, dude. Medieval. I'm ancient.
Carcassonne is a tile placement game, as Josh alluded to. You're placing down squares that will have roads, castles. Is that what French for cut? No, I won't go there because I'll insult some French person. I don't want to do that. Roads, castles, and ultimately farmland. The version of the game I have has the expansion called the River and the Abbot. And the Abbot you can place on little abbots.
Abbeys.
Thank you. And you get 9 points for each square around that. Roads, when you place them on a road, you get 1 point for each road, and 2 points for every completed castle. Half that if you don't complete the castle. And then there's the element of the farmland where you can get 3 points for every completed castle within the farmland that you control. Great game that was one of the first games that I'd purchased. I guess it's kind of a gateway tile game.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why we selected it for game versus game. It's great from my perspective because it's one that I can just basically get out and play and not, the rules are just sat in my head. So it's easy. You don't have to, it was one that you didn't recall and I think you picked it up fairly easily without me having to explain too much of the rules.
Yeah, I get the basic principle of turn over a tile, potentially put a meeple on it, if it's advantageous or not.
Correct, yeah.
There's that kind of double layer of analysis over it of where do I put the tile in this ever-expanding kind of modular board?
Yeah.
And then also, do I put my meeple down on that in terms of getting the most points from it? I think you're right about the rules not sticking with me, and it's a weird one, Carcassonne, because I've played it a few times now. Given it's such a famous board game and a gateway game and all this sort of stuff, I'm surprised though, because the rules never stick with me. It's one of these weird games where I just never retain the rules at all. I can never remember what scores what or how things work and that sort of thing. It never kind of sticks for some reason.
Are we finding some kind of bias here for the game already? Is it because you don't enjoy it or?
No, I don't. It's not that I don't enjoy it at all. I think it's pretty good. Okay. For me, it's kind of... I'd say it's like a 60 out of 100 kind of thing, or 6 out of 10.
Your meta score is 60 out of 100.
Yeah. I like it, and it's not something I don't look forward to playing or will actively go out my way to avoid playing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just kind of, it's all right.
It's an okay game to play.
Yeah, and I can see the strategies in terms of how that works in it and how placing stuff and... You started doing it to me at the start with the kind of stealing castles away kind of thing.
Yeah, so...
sorry.
Go on.
No, because you can explain it better than I can.
Yes, the idea is that you can either share points for something like a road or a castle by placing your meeple down, and then as long as they're not adjoining when you place your meeple down, and by adjoining I mean, so when you place 2 tiles next to each other, they're obviously touching and they're joining. If there's a gap between those and you're able to place it down and then place another tile between those two, you then create a connection, and if you then create a connection, you can share those points to steal a road or a castle, as long as they're not connecting and then you connect them with a tile in the middle, you can steal by having more than one meeple each. So if I have one meeple, you have one meeple, and I managed to join a second meeple. So I have 2 on the castle and you have 1 essentially. I hope I explained that well enough. If not, please do look it up. I can then, which I managed to do to one of your castles, take all the points rather than us sharing the points or both getting equal points. So you can do that with roads and with castles. And you can also do it with farms as well. But when we played this, we decided not to play farms just so we didn't overcomplicate it because you hadn't played it in a while. And even though I managed to steal those points from you, you'd won by about 3 points or so, didn't you? Yeah. For me, it's a very chilled game, and it's not an overthinky game. You can, and I'm sure people do. We talked about whether there was a tournament scene, and I'm pretty sure there is. There's probably really good ways to play this. You're limited on some tiles in terms of the number of tiles that you have. So there are only a certain number of abbeys, for instance. There are only a certain number of castle pieces that are shaped the way that they are shaped. So you have to take that into account. I don't. I turn over a card, I place it. I make a decision as to whether I want to put a meeple down on that. I tend to not put a meeple on a road unless there's already 2 or 3 pieces there. Castles I'll go quite heavy in. And farming makes it really quite interesting in terms of a bit more strategy. And there are loads of other expansions as well, and I've always been tempted to get the expansions to this because it is a game I enjoy a lot, but I don't want to, again, I just like that I can pull that game out and explain it very simply to people, not overthink it, and just play styles and go with the flow. And I think if I added other expansions in, that might add some other complication in that. I don't think it will take away from the game, but it will take away that element of making it fun, easy, quick.
Yeah, I get it. The first time I played it with you was when we went away to Fishguard, which we've referenced before with Cosmic Encounter.
Yeah. And
we played it over coffee the next morning, and I really enjoyed it. I was still a fledgling kind of board gamer at that point. And I still really like the artwork. You know, I've got a thing for that slightly vintage, little bit cheesy kind of artwork. And I really like it, how it looks. And I like, as you say, the kind of straightforwardness of it. And there's something about it I like as well, just because Mum absolutely loves France.
Okay.
And she started getting more and more into board games since I have, because I take them home, play with her and Dad or what have you. And she's really interested in that. She's like, oh, I might get Carcassonne.
Oh, she really should.
Because they've been there loads and they love that kind of part of France and stuff.
Well, maybe we should have had her as a guest. She could have told us about Carcassonne, the town/city.
Well, Mum speaks really good French, and Hassie, I assume she still is fluent in French. So a minute ago when you were saying, oh, what's castle in French? I was like, we should have had them.
It's not Carcassonne. It's along the lines of Le Chateau, right? Because the house is chateau, and I think so. It's a word similar to that, if I remember. No,
I'm not putting myself out there to
I did.
say yes or no.
Shoot me down, please do. No, I love that your mum would love that.
Yeah, and it's a shame, really. She's asked me about it in terms of playing it, and I can't really answer her for reasons I've already said. That I can't really retain how it plays and stuff.
Okay.
But maybe it's something I'll get her, for birthday or Christmas and learn and teach her, and that will probably help me retain it.
Do you know what? Please do, because it's one that I've recommended a number of times. John, I'll give John a shout out and say hi. It's one of the first games that he played with his family and absolutely loved, and they went out and purchased the big box. I think it's called the big box, Carcassonne, and that has all the expansions in it. So John would be a good person to talk to in terms of the expansions and whether it makes it any harder or anything like that. And there was also somebody at work who, Alan, not that I think you'd be listening to this right now, but I said that I'd lend him the game and then unfortunately never got round to lending him the game. But Carcassonne's one I will easily hand out to people and say, play this is fun, it's really easy to play with family and stuff.
Yeah, it is a good gateway game for getting people into board games, 100%. I do think something that does irk me slightly about Carcassonne is it's similar to Catan. Those are the two that kind of spring to mind, but there's definitely others. Very board gamers gateway games. If you ask someone who's into board games, what's a gateway game? Catan, Carcassonne, maybe Ticket to Ride, stuff like that these days, will generally come up in that list.
Yeah.
And it annoys me that Carcassonne and Catan are quite, in my opinion, exploitatively priced. Like, if you go they're often in shops that don't specialise in board games.
Yes.
and they will just price it through a roof. Like
Yes.
I quite often see Carcassonne on shelves in places for kind of 45, 50 quid. Like, no, that's too much
Yes.
for Carcassonne.
Yeah.
In terms of what you're getting in the box, don't get me wrong, it looks nice, but it's some cardboard tiles and some wooden meeple.
It should be priced a little bit more competitively, shouldn't it? I guess the thing is, and I know what you're going to say next, Waterstones.
Please sponsor us.
There we go. Waterstones, as I found out from some game publishers and stuff, they always have their games at RRP and very, very rarely have them discounted. So if you're going to look for a bargain, unfortunately, you're probably going to look online. And Carcassonne's going to hold its price online because, again, it's one of those games. I don't remember how much I paid for mine, but I'd say if you can pick it up for around £30, it's well worth it. But I agree with you. I think it should be 20. I don't know what their
20's first, I think's fair. But
I don't know what the margin is on a game like that. I know it's not easy to make money in board gaming, but no, I think it's a really good point that you bring up. It's a shame because it can be a game that's priced too high and will put people off for that very reason.
Yeah, it's why I've never owned a copy of it.
Okay.
And it's one of the reasons Mum's not picked it up herself.
Yes. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
You know, and I don't feel confident enough in terms of my enjoyment of it to warrant that. Especially when I spend £45, £50 on something really big and decent that I've wanted for a while.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Well, what I'd say to you and what I'd recommend anyone to do, I know I very much care about my board games and my collection and looking after them, but I know you do too, so I trust you with it. Feel free to take the copy down next time you go down to see your parents, especially if your mum will enjoy it. 100%.
Thanks, mate. Yeah,
no worries.
Sure she will. Shall we move on to Samurai?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, you lead Samurai. This is more your game, and
yeah. So Samurai is a game by Dr. Rainer Knizia, one of my favourite board game designers, as you well know.
I do,
and he takes up a lot of space in my Kallax shelves.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much have almost every.
Not even close,
oh,
dude.
Really?
No, he's got like hundreds of games.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay,
it's been going since 70s.
Oh,
I
really?
want to say 80s maybe. But yeah, so Samurai's part of the Knizia tile laying trilogy. So alongside, you've got Samurai, you've got Through the Desert, and you've got Tigris and Euphrates. And Tigris and Euphrates is probably most famous out of those three and the most well rated. Personally, it's my least favourite out of the three. Through the Desert is the least kind of well regarded, but again, I really like Through the Desert, and Samurai kind of sits somewhere in the middle. And I thought Samurai would be a good one to compare against Carcassonne because it's still tile placement, but it doesn't have meeple or anything like that. The idea is that you're competing warlords, for lack of a better term, in medieval Japan, and you're trying to win the most influence. And there's kind of three areas of society you're aiming for. You've got farmers who are represented by rice. You've got religion, which is represented by Buddhas, little Buddha statues. And then you've got sort of warriors, which are various castles. And you randomly allocate little plastic pieces of rice, Buddha heads, and castles around the board. And then throughout the game, you're just laying tiles, hopefully adjacent to these pieces to win influence over them. Some of the tiles will have matching images on them, so they'll have Buddha heads or rice, and they'll have a number next to them. And when a piece is surrounded, it's the simple case of who's got the most tiles and which are worth the most in terms of who wins that piece. And the game ends when all the pieces are taken off the board, or when 4 pieces are removed from the game through players drawing, tying for influence.
Yeah.
And then you work out who's won essentially the best 2 out of 3 of those influence. And what I like about it is it's really straightforward. You do have some interesting tiles you can lay, so ones that let you switch 2 pieces you've previously laid, or lets you move 2 of the actual plastic pieces. So you can really mess with someone then, because they've put loads of Buddha heads around the Buddha statue and suddenly it's turned into a grain of rice or whatever. And it's worth nothing. Yeah. And then you've also got those fast tiles. So tiles with a little red symbol on them that you can play multiple of in a turn. So it does have some depth to it. It can be quite thinky, but like you were saying with Carcassonne, very straightforward. Open the box up, lay out the board. It's an modular board that can be different for 2 to 4 players. It gets progressively bigger, and I just love it. I just think it's great. You've got the naval tiles as well, so you can lay ships in the ocean, which help influence stuff on coastlines. And yeah, it's very simple. It's very thinky. It's very satisfying to play, and I've never felt any kind of, I suppose, that was a nasty move. Why did you do that to me? Kind of thing. It's very kind of wholesome. Yeah, I love it.
My first question is, what's Japanese for castle?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Well, someone needs to tell us what Japanese for castle is, as well as French. I know we could Google it, but I'm trying to interact with our audience here. Come tell us. My first thought on the game was, oh wow, the board's nice. The figures are kind of cool. So it looked pretty, and it's certainly so from that perspective. It's to me, it's prettier than Carcassonne. It is also, or was for me, a lot more thinky. Interestingly, as you said that I did, so we played Samurai first and then Carcassonne after. And when we played Samurai the first time, one thing I would do was kind of pick up the tile, hold it out onto the board while I was thinking about it, and Josh noticed that I did this and made a comment about it. Interestingly, you did the same with Carcassonne. Whereas with Carcassonne, I would just flip over a tile and then go, I'll place it there. Josh did I think we were competing against each other at our own board games kind of thing, like really I wanted to beat you at yours and you wanted to beat me at mine kind of thing. 10 points for who can guess who won Samurai. Put it in the comments below. And you're right in terms of I didn't feel any move on there was, oh, why did you do that? The only tile I think you could do that with, the ones you alluded to, where you could swap out one of the figurines or swap a tile. But we both when we both made those moves, we both appreciated the strategy behind those moves, I think. So when you played yours, I was like, oh, well done. Yeah, no, that's a really cool move. You played that at the right time. And I know when I say at the right time, there's an element of luck in terms of which tile you pick up. Don't know if you mentioned, you have 5 tiles that you have face up in front of you that you get to choose from.
Yeah, hidden behind a screen.
So the other player doesn't see it. And the other ones are all face down on the table, and you pick up one face down from the table to replace the one that you've played.
Or several. It's always draw back up to 5. So if you played low of those fast ones, you might draw up to 5.
Yeah.
And actually, that was interesting because you were like, what happens when I run out of tiles? I was like, you won't.
You won't. It was, that's a good point, because I was looking at the board and go, there aren't enough tiles to, am I going to run out? And no, you won't. And then I realised as we got closer, the tiles pretty much fill the board, with the exception of one or two or whatever. Yeah, I liked it. It is simple. It's simple to play it. Again, I don't think you would have to overthink the rules. It could be one of those that you pull out and just play. But for me, I think there was more. There was more strategy and more thinking behind it. And maybe that was because I was just going, I really want to win this game. Whereas Carcassonne, I'm a bit more relaxed with. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. But I really enjoyed the game.
It's so interesting actually, because I think what you're saying, you've made me kind of reflect on how I was feeling about Carcassonne. And actually, I have the exact same. It's clearly not the games. It's clearly us.
We're being a bit competitive with each other.
Well, I don't even think it's a competitive thing. I think it's I wasn't as familiar with Carcassonne.
Yeah.
You weren't as familiar with Samurai.
Yeah.
And therefore, it was more thinky for us.
Yes.
Whereas the other one, like our games, were coming more naturally because we've played before and are used to it.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a good thing to reflect on. So maybe it isn't. I think there is a little bit more strategy. So I take your point and I agree with you, but I think there is a little more. Well, maybe not. Maybe it is just that I'm so used to playing Carcassonne that I'll kind of throw down a tile and.
Well, there's multiple layers to each.
Yes,
and. They're from similar kind of schools of game design in terms of being very simple but with depth to them. And Samurai, you've got how many fast tiles do I play? How many of those more tricky tiles do I hold back on?
Yes.
Am I better off going all in on something? Am I better holding off and spreading stuff? What have you? And also the luck element of what you draw coming out at the right time. Whereas Carcassonne's got, where do I put the tile?
Yeah.
Where do I put the meeple, the luck element, and then also the layers of scoring. Yeah. So castles, roads, abbeys, farmland, which we didn't use, that sort of stuff.
And maybe farmland would have made it a little bit more. It probably would have made it that little bit more strategy.
So I think really they're probably about
Very
the same
similar.
level. Yeah. And
The only difference I can think of, and just from a sort of, you draw from your own pile in Samurai, don't you?
yeah.
So me as a player, I have my pile, you have your pile, and we have identical tiles just in there each set, whereas Carcassonne is a shared pile that you're drawing from.
So the luck element comes in slightly more there, I feel. Because you could draw something you really need at the right time.
Yeah.
And I will never get that if you've drawn the last one.
If I've drawn the last one.
Whereas you and I will always have the exact same opportunities in Samurai in terms of what we get.
Yeah.
It's just when
we
get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like both.
I very much enjoyed both.
Yeah.
As I said, I wanted to go out and purchase it, but it's out of print. I mentioned in the last episode, it's out of print.
It's a shame, actually, because Samurai wasn't that expensive when I bought it.
Okay.
It was about, I think it was $39.99, something like that.
Interestingly, so shout out to them, I guess. Albie introduced us to a website called Board Game Prices.
Yeah.
Great. You can just put in a game and it will show you everywhere that it's available. And a lot of the time with games that are out of print, you'll find that there are European copies of the game that are available. So, for instance, with Samurai, I think there's a Spanish version that's available. And you and I had a discussion, interestingly. Well, it doesn't matter. There isn't any language written on the tiles themselves or anything like that. I guess the only thing might be that the rules are written in Spanish, possibly English as well. And the board game box itself might be more Spanish. But I think I could deal with those things to pick up Samurai. I'd like another tile placing game, because I think Carcassonne's the only one I have in my collection.
Yeah, you've just got to be careful when buying kind of foreign language copies of your board games. I mean, I've got a couple which, like, I got Stone Age, and I've got the Italian copy of Stone Age, and that was about £35 online, whereas the English copy was £75.
Okay.
And
was that for the anniversary edition, or was that the normal edition?
That was like both base ones, because at the time Stone Age was quite hard to get hold of. And then on the flip side of that, what's the other one I've got? My copy of Ra, which is another Ra and the Knizia game in that similar kind of series, is French. But again, it doesn't matter.
And I throw back to a comment when I thought that your Quest for El Dorado was German, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
I think it's written in English and German, isn't it? We've discussed that.
It's more card games, isn't it?
Yes.
It's card games because you'll have text on the cards. So stuff like deck builders or trading cards and stuff.
Yeah, buying Dominion in another language might be slightly harder.
To round up then, Andy.
Yes.
You've got to pick one.
I went, so let's do this differently. I went first last time, so let you go first on this occasion.
Samurai.
That was easy.
Yeah. Nothing against Carcassonne in that sense. Samurai, I love it. I can bring it to the table at any point. It was the first one out of the tile laying trilogy that I played, and it's still my favourite out of those three. It's not even got so much to do with the theme. It's just the easiness, the depth, the capacity to be thinky if you want it to be.
Yeah.
And it's quick as well. It's easily a game you could play a couple of rounds of should you wish to.
Yeah.
And it's just got a lot of those, I suppose, characteristics of Rainer Knizia games that are consistent through a lot of his games that I just love. I really enjoy.
Nice. One thing this is a difficult one for me if I'm totally honest. One thing I'd say, if you have a small gaming space, Samurai would probably be better for you, because it's certainly, if you're playing two players, the board's fixed. Whereas with Carcassonne, you're turning over tiles and it's ultimately getting bigger and bigger as you play. And you and I had to move some tiles over as we did that. Not that it affects gameplay in any way, but I just thought if you're thinking about size of table space and things like that. Oh, this is really tough. I think I'm also going to go Samurai. I could quite easily go Carcassonne because it's a game I love and it's a gateway game and it's one that's easy to play. But I think those things all apply to Samurai as well. But Samurai has a slightly more interesting twist to it, and it's one that I wanted to play again and I wanted to go out and buy. And playing Carcassonne again, I certainly want to play that more often. But I think I will buy Samurai if I can, maybe even the Spanish version, and add it to my collection and play it with Jodie, because I think it will be a game that I'll enjoy with Jodie. So yeah, I think Samurai has it for me.
Perfect.
Nice.
Anything else you want to add?
Just please do interact with us. We are a fairly new podcast. We do have social media. We're Instagram, Little Bear Games Insta.
Yeah.
And if you want to contact us for any reason, reach out to us via email.
Looking at you, Waterstones.
Look at you. And it's mail@beargames.co.uk.
Perfect. So we hope you've enjoyed our second episode of Game versus Game. We'll be back in the next couple of weeks with another mechanic. I think potentially thinking about engine builders for the next one. So we'll come up with a couple of good games for that and be back to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Josh.
I've been Andy.
Take care.
Before you leave, you must know you are beloved. Before you leave, remember I was with you.